Well, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. Today is hopefully going to be a short video for the simple fact that actually I've already recorded it and then found out the microphone wasn't working after completing 3 videos. So either way, I'm going to pump through as best I can. If you're a returning visitor to the channel, of course, thank you very much for your ongoing support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for visiting, and I do hope that you will find content that is actually interesting to you, that you will find to be helpful and beneficial in your day-to-day living. Now, the other thing to mention, basically, I'm pretty sure that at this point in time, there's going to be people that have met me offline who know me by my real name. Now, so just a reminder, I have a feather name on the channel, and that is to protect my privacy, the privacy of my family, my children, my extended family members as well. And so if you do make a comment to me, I would actually appreciate if you referred to me by the feather name on the channel. Thank you. And just a little bit of background on that feather name. It was given to me many years ago by some people when they recognised it was becoming problematic for me. I created an online group probably, I think it was back in about 2013, 2014, and it was becoming a problem for me with this crossover between professional and personal. And so somebody came up with this particular feather name for me, which actually fits and which I really liked, and I adopted. Now, the other thing too is this is really important to me at this point in time because I'm re-entering the world, shall we say. I'm coming out from a sabbatical, and so I obviously am becoming more visible, I guess, where I've been detached for quite a long time. I'm returning to the online community as well and doing online readings, but I also do offline readings as well. And if you're new to the channel, or if you're just somebody that's watching the channel that has met me, the bottom line is everything I try to give to people, this is gifting. This is information, knowledge that I've picked up along the way. Some of it's evidence-based, some of it's not. Some of it is gathered through my studies of social work and my counselling degree, which I need to be transparent here. I didn't complete that. I didn't do my field placement. But the fact that I've got a Bachelor of Social Work actually gives me license, if you like, although I'm not part of my professional body anymore. I've decided to resign from that. A little bit disenfranchised, shall we say. Either way, where there is evidence-based information, I'm going to give it to you. Where it's metaphysical information, of course, there's no evidence to back it up. This is just people's experiences. Now, the other thing too that you would need to be aware of is when it comes to mainstream information, even if it's got evidence attached to it, evidence can become outdated. And I'm talking about medical evidence here. And so the onus of responsibility is on you to actually make sure that if I give you a tip to a pathway and say, well, the evidence today suggests that X and Y, then current research is basically the research that's been conducted in the last 5 years. So my research information that I give to you, the evidence facts, may actually already be out of date, but you need to check that out for yourself before applying it to your lives. Now, the other thing too, particularly for today's video, I'm probably going to be talking fast. And I am aware I have got a strong Australian accent. So just a reminder, you can go up to the wheel nut at the top of your screen and you can actually slow it down if it's too fast for you. The other thing too, if you're new to the channel, I do tend to go down a tangent every now and again. Feel free to jump to whatever part of the video interests you. I put timestamps and chapters into the description for that specific purpose, and I'm not going to be offended, of course, if you don't watch the entire video. I just do it and I hope that it'll work for somebody, that somebody will gain benefit. Anyway, moving on. Now, one of the reasons I'm a little bit irritated by the fact that I've got to re-record this video is actually because I've lost a lot of time with the video recordings. It works out because I recorded about 3 videos before I realised, and each video takes me a couple of hours to actually do. And so where I'm going with this is I've lost about 8 hours, and time is kind of at a premium at the moment. And partly this is because if you watched last week's video, you're going to be aware that I was actually looking to scope a venue to hold an event. Well, I think I did. I think I told you last week. But either way, the reality is I actually did. I went out with an idea to view a venue with consideration to offering some kind of free charitable events, shall we say, for gathering. Anyway, I've booked a venue is where I'm going. So if you're living in Perth, Western Australia, particularly in the Mount Lawley area, doesn't matter if you don't live close to Mount Lawley because Mount Lawley is fairly central anyway, you are invited to attend. Now, of course, the event is free. You don't have to pay to come along. It's just going to be a social gathering. You're invited to bring along your tarot, your favourite crystals. If you haven't got them, I've got them myself. I've advertised it on Eventbrite. So I'll put a link in the description where you can go to actually get these tickets. So it's kind of like it says purchasing a ticket, but you don't pay any money for it. But I do need to know who's going to be attending and who isn't, because I've got limited numbers at the venue. I haven't gone for a great big one to start with because I thought it would be nice to have something cozy, and you never know. If it gets too popular, then I might have to get a bigger space to hold these events, but I plan to hold them once a month now. And yeah, basically grab a ticket, come along. If you find that you can't attend at the last moment, I will be putting a wait list up just in case. Okay, so let me know if you can't make it, but the link will be in the description. So I've also been busy at home creating the space to get back into delivering face-to-face readings offline. And part of this includes me actually going and sourcing crystals, because quite often when I do a consult, I like to call them a consult as opposed to a reading, I will actually make a recommendation for a person to buy a crystal. And I kind of figured, well, you know what, actually, bottom line is, if I'm going to be suggesting to people, look, maybe you want to consider buying a carnelian tumblestone or something like that, I have them here in stock, so they can actually go home with them in their pocket. So yes, anyway, I've been busy creating that space, making the room nice and pretty and ready for visitors. Not sure how the dog's going to behave himself for them though, but we'll see. So I'm going to deviate from the norm a bit here today and actually provide a healing strategy. And this has been prompted because I'm connecting with people offline, and I was informed the other day of a person that I will be meeting up with that actually has sustained a calf injury, and that's going to lay them up for a couple of weeks. They're not allowed to drive. So after I've done this video, thankfully I hadn't done it before now, to let her know there's a healing strategy here that she can try and work with and incorporate into her life, just to try and fast track the healing process. Anyway, whether people believe or not, it really doesn't matter, because I say if somebody's got a nasty injury, they've got nothing to lose, particularly if it's laid them up. So I would recommend you give it a go and then give me some feedback and let me know how it worked for you. So in regard to this particular activity, I did actually try and test it myself many years ago, and I was actually given the technique. In fact, it's a combination of techniques that I was given from two different individuals who were both teachers and mentors on how to fast track and recover from what I had, a muscular injury. I popped 3 tendons in my ankle, and I was literally laid up, you can imagine, actually for about 6 weeks with that one. But anyway, I'm recommending this for, we're going to call her Jane. I'm not going to call her by her real name. And I am doing this as a demonstration on how you would do the activity, focusing on the calf muscle, but you can apply it to any injury that you've got on your body. I'm looking at my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything second time round. Okay, so basically the idea is with the placement of the hands. That's important in as far as I've got these images here to actually show it. So if we look at the image on the left, we've got somebody who has placed their hand pointing down the back of their calf muscle. That would be the position I would expect Jane to use when she's trying to heal her injury herself. When we look at the middle image, which is a video actually, we see that the person is cupping and massaging the bottom of the calf. That I don't think would be the appropriate way of doing it. We're simply directing energy. And then I've got the image here of the leg with the calf muscle. So you can see as a muscle, when it's packed onto the back of the bone, you can see it runs lengthwise. The calf muscle doesn't run around the leg bone. It runs down the leg bone. And this is why that image on the left is a better use for the hand placement. What else have I got here that's relevant to it? The only other tip that I would give here is that with the image on the left-hand side with the fingers pointing down, you wouldn't actually have that thumb out to the side. You would bring that in. So it's kind of like all the fingers and the thumb together, cupped and pointing down the actual leg muscle. What else have I got? You would also, for this activity, Jane, I'll speak to Jane directly here, you would actually use both your hands. You'd put one at the front and one at the back, okay, just stating that. Now, also, Jane will know that when I was speaking to her, what was actually really interesting is when she told me that she had the injury. This is where the metaphysical meets physical. As soon as she told me that she had a calf injury, I know it's wrong. I'm sorry for laughing. I laughed. I wasn't laughing that you had pain. I was laughing for the fact that I knew straight away, without even being open to give a psychic reading, the cause of the condition. And when we've got things like leg and ankle issues, it's basically being prevented. Somebody's trying to lock us into moving forward, or persuade us to stay where we are. Bit of a story, I'll break it down a little bit. It doesn't have to be malicious, but basically there's a difficulty in moving forward to taking that next step. So I'll just share here with you an affirmation that my mentor gave me some years ago. At the time, I obviously sustained my injury. And basically this is the belief, his belief, and actually mine now, that we sustain injuries when we're repressing aspects of ourselves. And this is, if we think something, we think, no, that's not right, that can't be right. So we ignore it. We ignore that inner voice. But the inner voice is our guidance a lot of the time. And when we're ignoring it, we start to get upset about things. And so, there's an idea there of I should, I must, etc., etc., that ends up becoming an emotional thing. And then finally we sustain a physical injury to draw our attention to the underpinning thought and idea. So to put this, I'm trying to give a bit of context here. So, okay, if it was a calf muscle injury and we're being held back from moving forward, it could be related to a number of reasons. I will give you some examples, but first of all, I actually want to address the fact that some people, and I find this quite amusing, generally men, in my experience, will turn around and say, oh, what a load of rubbish, I didn't get that accident because of a thought. I got my shoulder injuries because, I tore my muscle when I was lifting something heavy. For older people, it's not going to work like that. Just so you know, I actually tore a muscle taking off my bra, but that's a story for another day. Because as we get older, obviously the muscles get more vulnerable. That's another story. But anyway, you could get an adult male turn around and go, yes, well, I got my back injury or my shoulder injury because I was lifting heavy things, and there's nothing to this that you're talking about. It's a load of rubbish. But there is an idea and a thought behind there, which is the questions need to be asked. So why did you lift it? If you were not physically equipped to lift that heavy item, what pushed you to do it? Didn't you know your limits? Did you think that you were more capable than what you are, right? When you were actually doing that lift, did you not feel a twinge and think, I better not do this, or did you ignore it? There are underpinning thoughts, even if we consciously acknowledge them. So let's go back to the calf injury, and the context, as I say, is going to be different for each person, but there is an underlying message. Now, in the case of Jane, in inverted commas, I don't know very much about her, but I do know that she's new to Australia because she's not got an Australian accent, all right? The other thing is I don't know if she's right or left-handed, and I don't know if her calf is left or right calf that's injured. But all of these things will influence what we call spiritual or energetic diagnostics. Okay, so let's say if she's right-handed and it's her left calf, in this case, we could pretty well say that something is holding her back from moving forward emotionally, okay? Now, this might be as simple as she's got a mum alive at home that's saying, darling, I wish you were back. I wish you hadn't gone overseas. Can't you come home? Can't you bring the family home? And Jane's got a husband, perhaps I don't even know this anyway, and she's got children, and she's sort of like, I want to go home because I love my mum, but I don't want to be there because I actually feel that this is where our future lies, and I'm going to be able to give my children a better future, so actually I can't go home. And then the mother getting upset, and as they would, we've all got families and been through similar, but basically then starting to feel guilty that she's not a good enough daughter or X and Y, and really starting to go into that space of feeling torn and questioning her decisions to move forward. But it's not malicious. This is the important thing to understand. And then it becomes a case of learning to assert the personal boundaries and being able to say with loving kindness, look, I love you and I miss you, and, can we not bring you over for a holiday or whatever, but I can't go back with the family. We're here now. It might even be, can you not come over on an extended visa, mum? Stuff like that. Or on the other hand, it can be kids turning around and saying, I don't want to live here in this new country, mum. Can we go home? I miss Nana. That's all part of it. I mean, if it was the right calf, in under certain conditions, it could be that somebody in the workplace is making decisions about, Jane might want to get a promotion and been striving for a promotion, but at the end of the day, somebody higher than her is saying, no, I don't think you're ready, and I think you should, or you're really good at what you do, and we love what you do, and we want you to keep you at this level because we've actually got somebody else lined up for that promotion. These are all things that might result in a calf injury. I'm stopping and pausing if you can't pick it up because I'm looking at my notes. So going back to the, let's say it was the right calf, that could create anger, and even a level of paranoia where you're like, whatever, I'm not going to go too far down that. The idea is that when you do this activity, you're trying to be shown the originating thought so that you can release and heal this calf injury. And sometimes it's buried so deep that it can actually take many years to fully understand the causality or the thought, idea, or experience that created the injury. And I'm aware of this, excuse me while I cough. I'm aware of this because as I'm creating this video, I've actually now had it fully fall into place why I sustained the ankle injury that I did, which was actually a detachment of 3 tendons. Oh, it was so painful. But I get it now in hindsight. Just a little extra tidbit for you guys. If your injury relates to your knees, well, basically to joints, knees, elbows, ankles, shoulders, or whatever, there is an element of emotional manipulation involved in those injuries. So this activity actually relies upon creative imagery or visualization, as we say. And the other thing too is, to this point, when you obviously sustain an injury, you're trying to work out what your purpose and intention is of doing the healing activity. And I'll go into that in a little bit more in the next slide. But for now, it's an idea that to get comfortable, when we talk about visualizing, we're talking about these two images here I've got are called double terminated points. And this is what we want to see in our mind. We want to see double terminated points, but instead of being glass, because most people will be familiar, they've seen them made of glass, these ones are made of solid gold. Of course, you're never going to find a solid gold double terminated point. It just doesn't happen. So this is part of this creativity. So we want to be able to visualize those points made of solid gold, and we want to be able to visualize also the green light or the green ray. Now, I've put up an example of green. What I'm trying to create here is an emerald green. But the bottom line is emerald green and emeralds, they all come in a variety of shades as well. So it doesn't have to be exactly like the colour that I've put here. You go with what you see in your mind's eye for emerald green, how it manifests to you in your vision. So as preparation for this activity, just close your eyes and hold for a moment a vision of seeing 2 golden double terminated points, and then try and vision. It doesn't matter if you can only sustain it for about 5 seconds. It takes practice to actually really get good at holding these kind of visions. But this is how we're going to start the activity, getting you ready for it, ready to visualize. So the idea of any healing activity, when we talk about intention, especially if it's pain related, is obviously to heal the injury. You might want to fast track the physical recovery if it's a physical injury, or it might be simply that you want to reduce the pain and make it manageable, which is still healing anyway, okay? So that's the purpose and intention of this activity. So then we look at what is it, how are we going to do it? We're going to invoke, in this instance, we're going to invoke the highest power of beings, the highest vibration, beings of light and love. And of course, we're going to go straight to the Creator and our angels and guides. Now, on this page, you get an example of how you would do an invocation. But it's really important that when we do an invocation, that we actually call in a way or invoke in a way that we are comfortable with. So this is going to be different for different people because we all have different names or approaches to accessing these higher beings. So, for instance, a Christian might use the name of Jesus Christ, a Muslim might say Allah, Wiccans might say Goddess, others might say all that I am, some might say the great I am, right? You use the names that are comfortable for you, because this is about you being able to be sincere, right? And it's very hard to focus an intention when you're not comfortable with the words that you use. So you've got to make yourself comfortable psychologically with what you're doing as much as you've got to make yourself physically comfortable for this activity. And this is about physically, emotionally, and psychologically. So then you would make your invocation as outlined here. I'm just reading what I've done. I'm not going to read right through it. It's right there for you. So what I want to address is the fact that you're not asking for the pain to be removed, because some pain is good, especially with something like a calf injury, because the bottom line is if you remove all the pain and that muscle has not healed properly, you might overuse it and re-injure it, or certainly do more damage. You might even escalate the problem because you're making it work harder than it should be, simply because the pain is gone. Now, in my instance, I can say that while I did recover and I was able to walk much quicker than other people who had the injury that I had, there was a vulnerability there, and I did continue to work. Because I was in mining at the time and I had to wear safety boots. So I always made sure my safety boots were tight, and I always had my ankle strapped. And while it didn't cause pain, I was very aware of any little bit stretch a little bit too far, and because there was that vulnerability there. Now, just a reminder, if you're going to use this activity for bone breaks, you've got to make sure that the bone has been set before you start doing it, because in my experience and understanding, not personal experience, things that I've been told, is that actually sometimes it can help the bone to set, but if it hasn't been set properly beforehand, the bones will start to fuse and they might need to be rebroken down the track and reset, which just sounds incredibly painful and something that can be avoided, or rather should be avoided at all costs. Now, the other thing too is if somebody is trying to treat a part of their body that has got cancer or a tumour there, my advice is that you would use not the green ray, you would use the violet ray. I'm going to leave that to your discretion. Now, the other thing too is that when it comes to this activity, I've encouraged you to use the green ray, and this is because my understanding is that's one that works for muscles and ligaments. But at the same time, you could also use the violet ray. You know, it's up to your comfort zone. If you don't want to use the green ray, use the emerald ray. Not the emerald ray, the violet ray. Now, the actual doing of this activity really only takes about 5 or 10 minutes. It's not hugely time consuming. You can do it at least once a day, okay? Until you're healed, do it once a day. You may want to do it more times a day if you've got time and you have the capacity to do it, you're not interrupted or whatever. And probably once you've done it at least once or twice, it will only take you about 5 minutes to do. So what you do, obviously, calf injury here is sit yourself down in a position where you can lean forward and put a hand either side of that calf muscle, one behind, one at the front. And then with your invocation, you're going to be asking them to assist you to insert these golden double terminated points into your leg. One is going to point up and down, one is going to go back and forth. And this is the idea. The idea is that the energy is going to run up and down and across the injured area and channel healing light into that. Now, once these have been put in place, and you can visualize yourself doing it or your guides and angels putting these points in, inserting them into this area, the reason why you do it daily is because these points are said to be working each day and they need to be recharged. So you've got to charge them up. I suppose much like a telephone battery charger, really. And the visualization activity once a day is a charger. What else would I say? So once you've got the points in place, then you do obviously, actually I missed a step there. Do your invocation, put your hands on, insert the points, charge them with the green light, treat the area for about 5 minutes. But the way that you charge them is you imagine this beautiful light coming through your crown, pouring from your heart chakra and out of your hands, and into that injured area, and then you just sit with it. Now, if you're energy aware, you might actually feel the flow, okay? And if you're not energy aware to start with, you might actually become energy aware and feel the flow. It's time to move your hands and take them off when the flow stops, right? And if you're not energy aware and you don't feel energy flow, it's time to take your hands off when your mind starts wandering and you're thinking, oh, I've got to get up, I've got to go and do dinner, or I've got to go and do X and Y. That's the time you lift your hands off. And at that point, you would also, whether you felt anything or not, get into the habit of saying thank you for the universal energy. Now, if you didn't feel anything, but you feel in your head that something's happening, ask to be made consciously aware of energy. You want to be able to feel it, and then you allow yourself to feel it, to be open to receive. And that's the activity, my friends. It's not really hard, is it? It's quite simple, really. If you've got some questions or you've got a different strategy, please do feel free to leave a comment. So before I go into the channel update, I just thought that I would remind people that I have commenced these videos. I've only done one so far, which is the metaphysical meets the physical. What's your body trying to tell you? That's the stuff that we were talking about when, what is the causal idea of injury. And with each part of the body, you actually have a little message where it's trying to show you something. And I just want to be clear here, because this came up the other night when I was somewhere where there was a mention, you can't, I say you can't, that's putting a limitation on it. I think it would be very unwise for people to turn around and say, well, if this person said that injury is X or Y, as I've done today, and that's it, that's all there is to it, end of story. The calf injury is related to X or Y. I think that would be a little bit narrow, okay? What I tend to do when people give me information is I weigh it up and then I reach my own conclusions, because if we are restrictive in this way, we restrict so many other things. And I'm going to give you a prime example of this. I got told many years ago by somebody that I would not be able to channel and do psychic work because I have a thyroid condition. Now, many people don't realise this when I do provide my services, that I'm actually operating outside of expectations, I suppose, in one part. And this is because, I wouldn't even like to say why or because, but basically I've put a lot of energy work into developing my gifts. And what I have found is that because I have this underpinning thyroid condition, which incidentally is genetic, and hereditary. It's Hashimoto's, actually. I don't feel, if I'm being honest, that it has been as easy for me to tap into and access those gifts as other people. Some people, they just blow wide open. People like me, I've had to work longer at it. But where I'm going with this is, I heard somebody positioning the other day as a teacher that if a person has got a thyroid condition, then they must have had some kind of, I'm not going to go into it, experience when they were 6 years old or as a child and developed the condition. Now, where I'm going with this, where I'm going with this is that, that may be true for some people, but I'm pretty sure, whether it's Hashimoto's or not, that a thyroid condition is actually an autoimmune condition. Hashimoto's definitely is, and it is hereditary. And so therefore, I think that's a bit of an assumption to say, well, you got this condition because of X, something, some kind of psychological abuse when you were a child. Well, I don't know what to say to that, to be honest. I know in my studies and research of the condition, what I have found is that they believe that people with an autoimmune condition, whether it's Hashimoto's or not, apparently have similar DNA strands to people that died of the Black Death, the plague, many centuries ago. So scientists now believe that those people with autoimmune conditions are descended of survivors from the Black Death. So anyway, personally, I think actually, if we believe in divine plan, we believe that we were born with these conditions, and either to live through them, learn from them, grow from them, or overcome them. Anyway, I'm not going to get stuck into this. That's my rabbit warren. I will pick up the pace and just say, look, just a reminder that I'm putting together a crystal prescription list. Basically, if you've got a health condition, By the time I complete this, and I'm certainly not even halfway through it, you can ask me what you would use to treat a certain condition. I can turn around and say, well, look, based on my studies and research, these are the recommendations I've seen. Of course, you would always keep an open mind. Now, bearing all of that in mind, and bearing in fact that I haven't actually completed this list, I do have the names of some crystals that would be recommended for muscle injury and ligament injury. And if you have these crystals, you might want to pop them under your pillow or wear them as part of promoting healing and recovery of these conditions, of the muscle breaks and tears. In the original video, I actually ran through these and broke them down for you, but to be honest, it's a self-explanatory slide. Feel free to hit pause and take a look and see if there's something there that you might have in your crystal collection that you can use to promote your recovery of your injury. Some of them are expensive, some of them are easily obtained, some aren't, but the full list will go up at some point in time. What else can I say? Nothing really about that. I think time to move on to the next video. Did I say video? I meant slide. So yes, of course, lepidolite was published this week. I love lepidolite. I've actually been wearing it quite a bit in between wearing my carnelian at the moment, because carnelian and seraphinite are my flavour of the month type crystals at the moment. Larimar was also published this week. That was actually a real challenge to record because the dog got hyperactive through that one, so I'm very sorry about that. And the other thing was there was an issue with the short that I created, so I loaded that and then I had to take it down, fix it up, and then load it back up. Few issues with technology this week for me. Seraphinite is going to be published next Tuesday, and this is the video that's got my wick a bit this morning, because this is the one that I actually spent all morning recording. Well, I exaggerate, not all morning, but I actually did a full recording of this, and I was actually really quite impressed with myself, feeling that I was getting ahead of things. I was working on the short, and thank goodness I tested it and realised that my microphone hadn't worked for either the short one or the long one. And then, hello, surprise, surprise, I thought, oh, I better check the yarning. Oh, look at that. The microphone didn't work for the yarning either. To all extents and purposes, it looked like it did. It's just that when you played it, you heard nothing except the background music. Very frustrating. But anyway, Seraphinite I love, and I will repeat that when I sound more enthusiastic and less fatigued than I do right now. Chrysanthemum, if I can speak, chrysanthemum stone, also known as flower stone, I've got that ready. I've just got to record it, and then I'll upload that, and it will be published on Thursday. Now, I don't actually own any of this flower stone. I've seen it, I've held it. It was a little bit pricey back in the day when I was looking at it. I'd love to have a piece of it, so that will be on the radar for me to buy at some point in time. But it's certainly an interesting crystal. I'm keeping this one up more as a reminder to myself than to you guys, okay? Because at the end of the day, I am going to do them. I am a little bit delayed, bit time poor at the moment, also a little bit lacking in confidence with going back into the online format of delivering readings, even if they are charity and freebies, because I like to do the best that I can. The other thing is too, that historically when I start doing them, I actually get swamped and I get quite overwhelmed. So what will happen is, when I do them, it's going to have offer written up the top, okay? And it will be very limited numbers. It will never, ever be again like what it was in the past where I was doing 20 a day and that kind of thing. I'm cutting right back. It's going to be the bare minimum. And the thing is too that I will close comments off. Okay, when the offer is complete, I'm going to close them off so that I don't feel hugely pressured. I know what will happen if I don't do that. The reality is I probably will run away from the computer and stop doing readings for a little while, because I just, it just gets all too much. So just a reminder before I close out today that we do have a number of different playlists. Please go look through them at your leisure. I haven't put on here that I actually do have the one about the wisdom quotes, because realistically, I like the idea of having the quotes because they are inspiring and motivating if you actually look at them. But from my perspective, I've realised that I've come to enjoy running through them. I used to put AI on them, but now I actually speak, because actually I'm off AI voices anyway. I think we're all sick to death of AI. And so what I find actually is that by putting together those videos, they're only 10 minutes each, that it actually motivates and inspires me to keep working and doing and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I haven't put that up as a playlist, but there is a playlist where you get to look at that. So, my friends, that is it for today. Okay, so with a re-record of this video, it's actually ended up being about 10 minutes shorter. Lucky you. Anyway, I shall say love you, leave you, have a wonderful day, blessed week, take care, catch you on the next one. Bye bye for now.